I'm Phil Chenier here with new head coach of the Washington Wizards, Wes Unseld Jr., and we're here with the new Bud Light series. We're looking forward to breaking a case of that Bud Light open one day, celebration. This is the first chance I've gotten to see you in person and personally congratulate you on the head coaching job. I know there's a lot said about the Unseld name and whatnot, and obviously having played with your dad, there's a personal connection there, but more than that, you've been with this organization for a very long time. Obviously the connection as a child, but I mean scouting, coaching, you've been a part of this family too. Obviously you took a sabbatical at a couple other spots, but that has to happen. So again, congratulations on that. We're looking forward. We're all pulling for you. We feel like you're one of us. So how does it feel to kind of come back home in this situation where you know it all began?
It's incredible. You know, not only the family dynamic, being closer to home, you know, being closer to my mom and my sister, but you know, and I've said this 1,000 times, and it's from the heart. It's couldn't be more sweeter that you know the opportunity would unfold in a place where it all began. When you look at the landscape of the league, and you know, there's only 30 jobs in the world, so that in itself is incredible. And I had that opportunity, you know, once again to start where it all began, 24 years, you know, ago. So it's really special.
When you first started off as a scout, I mean, is this something that at that point you were thinking about, or were you just saying, hey, I just kind of want to be a part of the team and see what happens?
It wasn't even on my radar, honestly. Started more on the personnel side, where, you know,
How so?
Well, you know, when I started the scouting process, it was just more the going out and scouting the talent. So college players, high school players, did a little bit of European scouting. It wasn't the advanced scouting until, you know, about a year and a half later. And I think that's what kind of got me, you know, that coaching itch. You get into that competitive side, the game planning, the preparation phase. You feel more connected to the day-to-day success of the group. And I think that kind of piqued my interest, and that's kind of how I went down the rabbit hole.
You know, I think about your dad a lot, and one thing that I always remember of him is he can be kind of cynical at times.
You think?
You know, but deep down, you know, especially after you know him, you realize that his heart and soul is into this, you know. And I kind of remember him saying that he suggested that you not go into coaching or something to that effect. But I'm sure he also gave you some other insight as to the positives, the benefits, and well, I tell you what, you tell me what that conversation was like with you.
It was a number of conversations, and I think it was, you know, as I progressed from advanced scout, at that point he was retiring. So, you know, by the time I got the title of assistant coach, he had retired, and of course he was excited for the opportunity and excited for the experiences that I would have, the input, you know, learning more and more about the business. But also thought he cautioned me about the whole work-life balance, because at that point I'm still single, and you know I was traveling as a scout almost 20+ days a month. So at that point in your life, it's not that big of a deal. But at some point, you know, he having gone through some of that, he knows there's a sacrifice, and what potentially you could be missing out with the family. You know, so I think he was cautious of some of those things. It wasn't never you know, don't do this because it's not a great opportunity or poor choice of vocation, but it's in your blood. You love it. This is, you know, I've always been around it. But just that thought of, you know what, really think about if you take this job or take this path will lead you, there are sacrifices. You know, are you willing to make those sacrifices? Are you comfortable with some of the things that may happen?
It's interesting because you just pointed out all the different roles that you've had leading up to this, and I gotta believe that that's kind of a perfect lead-in to becoming a head coach, that you touch all the bases, that you've done the scouting, you've done the advanced scouting, you've been an assistant coach, you've been lead assistant coach, you've interacted with a bunch of other coaches. I'm kind of interested too what those interactions were. I know you were obviously Eddie Jordan. Was Lynham here?
I was not part of the staff at that point.
Okay. It was Eddie Jordan.
I was with Flip.
Flip.
You know, so it's been a lot of good coaches. You know, obviously Jock Vaughn in Orlando, Mark Jackson, his staff in Golden State, Michael Malone in Denver for the past 6 years.
talk about the influence that they've had and how you pick. I guess it's kind of like a player. I know as a player, I would watch Earl Monroe here or Jerry West there, you know, and you pick bits and pieces.
Sure.
And I'm assuming the same thing would hold true
Yeah,
with somebody.
all those experiences. A lot of it's just even before you get to the bench, as an advanced scout, you have an opportunity to learn the league, learn coaching styles, even if it's something as, oh, I like that action. I don't really know what it is, but you just draw that, put it in my back pocket. But as you kind of progress and you get the title of assistant coach, just the day-to-day, the personal dynamic, you know, the relationship that you see that coach having with players. You know, some are a little tougher than others. Some are players' coaches, so to speak. Some of the drills that they run. And we all have different versions of the same drill, but the nuanced ways that they teach, some of those trigger words. So it's just, you're kind of building your own philosophy just by observing. And you pick a little bit of what you like, some things you like, you know, don't necessarily like that. And you have to tailor that once you get the opportunity to the group that you have. So it's not just a one-way, hey, this thing fits all. It has to be tailored to your specific needs and your specific group.
I've noticed in reading some of the articles since being named coach that you've had some very positive feedback, not only from coaches, but players. Eddie Jordan said some great things about you, some of the players, I think Brendan Haywood, Jared Jeffries, some of the guys that actually played for you. And one of the things they said, and it was remarkable to me because it did sound like a lot like your dad, and that is that you're not somebody that looks for self-attention and self-gratification, and that you've been known as being, as you just mentioned, a player's coach. Players come to you and relate to you. Well, even Tommy Shepard was saying that you have a good rapport with players, and you've built that up. And, you know, I think that has to be said. I remember talking with Darryl Walker about your dad. He says the same thing. First of all, I think as an assistant coach, that's kind of part of the territory. You really have to. Sometimes you're that buffer between player and the head coach. But I think it's important for a head coach to have that. And I guess my question to you is, can you maintain that kind of position with players, having that relationship, but knowing that you're overseeing the whole?
Absolutely. I think it's vital. You know, I think players are different now. You know, they learn different. Those relationships they go a long way. And that doesn't mean you don't have to make tough decisions. It doesn't mean you have to sometimes hold guys accountable or, you know, coach them up, light a fire, you know, under them at times. But it all starts with that relationship. And it's sometimes easier as an assistant because you can always be the good guy. But that doesn't change that dynamic. You're coming from a place of respect. They know that your efforts are strictly to help them. And I think once they understand that you're not getting anything other than trying to get the best version of them, you get the buy-in. And once you get the buy-in, I think that's really where it translates onto the floor.
I understand you went out to L.A. to watch some of the guys practice, watch their workout. What was that like? I know Brad was one of them, but I think there were a couple of other ones that you went to see.
It was good. Like? I mean, you get the job and, you know, all that's great. You have to do some of the logistical things, but just to start, you know, building those relationships. And it's easier for guys, I think, at times when you meet them on their own terms. It takes a little bit of effort because you're bouncing around quite a bit, but you see them in their own element. You're not there to disturb the workout. You're not there to mess up what they have going on. It's just, hey, here's an opportunity for us to meet. You know, hopefully that relationship starts in an organic nature. So it's not like coach-player. It's just like we're just two guys. And get a feel for each other. Of course, those conversations will be had, you know, and it's an opportunity to go eat, hang out, just spend time. And I think that helps.
What would you say your connection with Bradley is? Obviously, he's the marquee player with this team. I've seen him say some very, I think, humbling, you know, things about this isn't his team, but he wants to be, you know, he knows he's one of the leaders. How was that first conversation with him, and what's your takeaway?
Well, the first conversation I actually had was before I got the job.
Is that right?
And it was probably part of the whole process where, you know, I'm not saying they had to sign off on it, but they were part of it. And to have that conversation, pretty much laying out my vision, my philosophy, how I can use him, how I can help him be a better player. How can I take some pressure off of him having, you know, to do the things that he has to do for us? So it was great because I think we were aligned in a lot of the ways we think. Some of the expectations, a lot of that we talked about. His responsibility as a leader. He's always been a guy who is led by example, does the right thing. He's about the right thing. And now I need his voice.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way with this group. He's the senior most tenured player on this team.
That's right.
And it's crazy when you think about it. 28 years old, and this is his 10th season.
Yeah.
So it's time.
Yeah.
He's got he checks all the other boxes. And he can do it. I know he can. And I think the sooner he gets comfortable doing that regularly, I think that will elevate the whole entire group.
I'm wondering, listening to you talk, first of all, while you were, say, in Denver, did you kind of have a eye on some of the Wizard players, or just not to recruit them, obviously, but just, at what point did you say, this is a team I'd like to coach?
Well, yeah, it's funny because when it's your first opportunity, you're not picky. And that's why I feel so blessed that this opportunity was available. In all honesty, I was involved heavily in another opportunity with another franchise. So my attention was elsewhere. And then I got the call that they wanted to interview. So just trying to juggle that on top of the job that I had made for a busy summer. So there's that sense of relief. Obviously, you get the opportunity. Now you can take a pause, but all the other things that come with that, it's right on you.
I was just thinking about your dad, one of the few players, and I always talk about this, to play with just one organization. So, of course, you and your coaching, you've been several other places. So that's why I was wondering if there was ever a point where you look back at this franchise being the first and being the attachment that your dad, say, I wonder what it would be like coaching the Wizards. I wonder what it would be like. Maybe at that time it was Wall and Beal, or whatever the case.
Well, it's one of those things, it's almost like daydreaming. You don't really think of it as a reality or potential reality. I think in the last probably 3 years, I really felt, okay, I have a chance to take that next step. After 20 plus years as an assistant or in the business, 16 of those as an assistant, you're like, okay, you think you're ready. And there's no way to really know it for sure until you get thrust into that situation. But you know what, you've been through your litany of experiences and you feel like I have a grasp on, how this is supposed to go. That's when you start pursuing those opportunities.
What was the first thing you heard from your mom, Connie, and your sister, Kim?
The funny part is, and I'll share this story, kind of an awkward thing. We were at my mom's place anyway. I had talked to Tommy. We were coming home for the week, and they wanted to meet again. So I said, fine, no problem, we'll be in town. So had a great meeting. I'm back home. Been on the phone, pretty much the last.
Now, when you say back home, you're talking about back in Denver?
No, here in Maryland.
Okay.
And so I'm at my mom's place, and of course the kids are running around. So I'm trying to find a quiet place to talk. Been on the phone for hours. They're getting restless. So I was like, all right, I got one more phone call, and we'll just get out of the house. Let's get some ice cream. Finish that call. I'm on my way upstairs to leave, and Tommy calls. So I'm trying to find another quiet place to talk. I go downstairs, and of all places, I'm stuck in the laundry room. I'm in the laundry room on the phone when I finally find out that I'm now the new head coach of the Wizards. And so I just walk upstairs, and I turn to my wife. I tell her. There was kind of a look on her face like, I don't know if it was that real or almost like disbelief, or I told my mom, and you could just see the rush of excitement. Relief, excitement, closure maybe is the right word. If you think at that point it was 13 months after my father passed. So I think it was just a rush of emotions from excitement, happiness, relief. So it was a good day. It really was.
I bet it was. And your wife, you said she had a funny look.
Well, I think it was more of the, you've been running around all summer, and all of a sudden now it's real.
Yeah.
So I think there was excitement for sure, but I think she also had that sense of okay, now I know what's happening. Just the unknown. This could happen, this couldn't. And all the other things that happened, she had to check off because sadly for her, she's burdened with a lot of the logistics.
I'll say, but hopefully she's got some help.
Oh yeah, she's got a lot of help.
Grandma and aunt now.
Yeah,
that'd be good. How much do you reflect back on earlier days growing up? Like I said, going to Capitol Center, going to watch some of your dad's practice, and how much do you reflect on that in terms of creating an image for what you want to do?
it's unfortunate. You know, I don't have a ton of memories, you know, from him as a player. I have more memories from him as a coach. And, you know, some of the fond memories we had when he played, it was just more the routine. You know, we didn't necessarily know the basketball side of it. You knew it.
You were probably playing in the family room.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt. Just the routine of the post shoot around, come home and eat. He would play, then take a nap, and then leave at a certain time. And then Mom would get us cleaned up and dressed, and then threaten us if we moved and got dirty. But you know, as a coach, you know, going to practice, you know, from time to time, and don't remember necessarily the conversations he had, but there was just a stern demeanor. He's very, you know, and I know players that he pushed, and probably didn't appreciate it then, but you know, I've spoken to him afterwards, years later, and they've come to me unsolicited to just talk about, you know, how meaningful that was for them, you know, for them as people, for them in their career, and just the structure, you know. And he was demanding. He was a tyrant at times, but I think he was just trying to help players see. He saw something in them maybe they didn't see in themselves. He was just trying to bring that out.
He was that as a player, too. I mean, he was a team captain, team rep, and he was quiet, but when he spoke, it was one of those situations everyone seems to listen. I guess I don't know if I got back to this other point about, you know, players being able to relate to you. And where do you think that you developed that characteristic?
I think you just have to be yourself. I mean, you know, you can mimic behavior, but I think it's when it's just being authentic. That's all I know. That's all I'm comfortable doing. The relationship piece is important. You know, the constant and open communication, that part's extremely important. But I think you just have to find what makes a guy tick. It's not one thing that's just going to move everybody. It's just how do I get the best out of Phil, get the best out of this person. That takes time, but you know, I think that's just part of my job. But just being around people, you know, it's not just the 15 guys in that locker room. You know, my job now is I got to manage up, got to manage here, and I got to manage the staff. So there are multiple layers to that, you know, that are new and different, challenging at times, but then that comes with it.
I saw where there was a quote from Michael Malone that a conversation that you had with him about taking a head coaching position. And you said there was some kind of dialogue back and forth about some people are going to say it's because of the Unseld name. And he brought the fact that his dad was a head coach. And he named a slew of other people whose dad had. And I don't think you don't knock that. You should be proud of that.
Sure.
But you have to understand that you've worked really hard for this, and you deserve this opportunity just like anybody else who put in that kind of time and put that kind of effort in. How did that make you feel after talking with Mike?
Well, it's funny because not only his father, David Adelman, was another assistant on that
Rick
staff.
Adelman, that's
you know,
right.
and his father said, you know, so we had that commonality. So we had these discussions, you know, quite often. I think, you know, that's something that not unique to me, but it's always kind of been an underlying driving force for me, even since day one. That, okay, well, you're only here because you're dad. Of course, that's my in. But if anyone knew him, that's not going to keep me there.
Right.
The work ethic, my character, integrity, that better come too. So it was always one of those things that kind of pushed me to do more. Like I felt like I had to validate even further why I had the opportunities that I've had. So that's really nobody's fault. It's just kind of like pressure I've probably put on myself, undue. But, and he's right. It's just, you know, I paid my dues. I'm certainly thankful for the opportunity, but I've put in the time. I've had, you know, a lot of experiences, and it's setting me up to be in the position that I'm in now.
How did Tommy Shepard first tell you that you had the job?
It was a kind of a long-winded conversation. It wasn't like, hey, it was just, he was talking, and I'm like, okay, just stand there, and then he kind of wraps it up and says, well, that being said, we'd like to offer you the position. And at first, you don't have to process that, like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's one of those moments that when you think of an opportunity like this and how it would display itself, you don't think it's going to unfold in your mom's basement in the laundry room. That's not how I foresaw
Not the
this
image
happening.
that you had
no,
in mind.
No, it didn't play out that way.
Well, I guess you know the area pretty well, so
Yeah.
the idea of getting yourself around is not going to be that complicated, which I always think about when somebody goes to a new city, is not only do you have to get acclimated to a new job and personnel, you have to know how to find your way around.
Yeah. Well, the city's changed quite a bit, though. I mean, I know it's been 10 years.
So are you getting lost now?
No, I'm not getting lost. It's just they've changed exits and the construction.
That's true, too.
Some of the areas have just almost unrecognizable.
This building wasn't built
No.
when you were here.
No.
So I guess that's kind of new.
Yeah.
You like this facility?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you almost feel spoiled because it's a relatively new building, and just the fact we have 2 courts. It's just that you have more than enough space.
Yeah.
The connectivity we have with the Go-Go, the Mystics are in this building. So the shared resources are there from the medical, the analytics staff. So all of those things coming together, it's like there are plenty of resources to pull from.
I know you've been asked this before, but I'm kind of curious. How much are you into the analytics? How much do you rely on that?
Quite a bit. I think it's part of the modern NBA. It's one of those things where at times it's got to pass the eye test. I personally will not make blanket decisions based purely on the numbers, but it's a resource, it's a tool, and the more information and data that we can get, I think it's smart. But I think some of the layers that they can pull from, things that you wouldn't even think of, and it really makes you sit back and think, you know what, maybe there's more to it. So I think it opens and broadens your scope, opens up your eyes a little bit to some things that you don't process. That's where I think you find some of the nuanced things and give yourselves an advantage, especially when it comes to the personnel stuff, the scouting reports. If you win one possession, that can be meaningful. So any advantage we can find, that's the challenge.
I got to believe that there's some characteristics that you brought as a player, both at high school and then at Johns Hopkins, being dealt with by a coach that you brought with you.
Well, I think it's part of it goes back to how you relate to players. What buttons to push, when to back off. Because I've been on the other side of it. Certainly not at this level. And obviously, you're dealing with a whole different ballpark over here. It's just, whether it's the media, the social media, the financial dynamic, all of that's different. But they're still players, and coaches coach, players play, and that dynamic doesn't change. It's no different than, if you were playing or trying to coach now, having gone through it, you can respect some of the things that I'm asking these guys to do, albeit at a much tougher level. But I understand kind of the flow, the ebbs and flows of the season, being around it, that long. So I think that helps my managerial style.
Is this you're in the midst of training camp right now, so how's it going? I asked Brad while you were there.
What he says in front of you and what he says
might be different.
Might be different.
But he said that you guys are pushing him.
Yeah.
I remember your dad complaining about training camp, and Gene used to make him run around the track at Fort Meade, and had to do it for time, and he would get it done. But I don't think he really was crazy about that.
No, not at all.
And then you fast forward about 10 years, he's coaching, he's making guys run a couple of miles, and they better make the time. If not, they got to do it again. I'm saying, Wes, what's up with this? This is what
the
you
roles
did.
reversed. Yep, absolutely.
I guess it's payback time.
It is. But no, it's been great. I think to their credit, they've been here for 3+ weeks, vast majority of our group, and they've been working hard, playing. And that's the point I made when I reached out shortly after getting the job. I reached out to them individually, put them all on a text thread, and kind of wanted to set the table with some expectations toward the end of the summer. Getting them here, having them try to develop that on-court synergy. So it's been great. He's taken the lead on that, really kind of pushing guys to get back to town and be a part of what we're trying to build. That's
good. I gotta ask you this: what kind of goals have you set? I know as a coach, you're not going to give me any numbers or anything, but I mean, what in your mind it becomes a successful season, and think that hey, we're moving forward?
Right. I think the biggest thing for me, and it sounds like coach talk, but I'm being completely honest, is did we get better? Did we make our players better? Now, ideally, that translates into more wins. but I challenge the players, and that's a challenge I accept. I need to be a better coach this time next year than I am right now. I expect the same from our players. So I want to hold everybody to that standard. So, you can take a quantitative look, whether it's wins or losses or some of the other metrics, or are we doing the things that we mapped out to do? But the feel is, did you come back as a better player? Are you a more complete player? Are you a more complete person? Are you a better leader? Whatever that thing is, are you better now than you were a year ago? I think if we can look back and say that, in my mind, that's a success. If we do those things, I do honestly believe that translates into wins.
You're coming from a program in Denver that is considered one of the best teams in the league. Players like Murray, Jokic. Is there something, either a style of play or there's something that you would bring from that organization?
Well, I think the style more so, they have unique talent, as do we. And, I think the biggest thing is the ball movement, offensively, the spacing, generating the right type of shots, the right type of threes. So, you can look at all these things and think, well, this is good action, but does it translate to this group? Different personnel, maybe not. And we have personnel that they don't have. So it's more conceptually based. Now, the defensive stuff is going to be similar. I think we did a nice job of changing, that spectrum, where they struggled defensively and it became a point of emphasis. We put it on the players. Hey, if you're going to buy in, then you got to go in with 2 feet, and we're gonna beat this thing to death until we get respectable in that area. And that mindset is something I'd want to transfer over.
I saw a statement from you saying that if the team were able to get one stop each quarter, that it would make some kind of difference. Explain what you meant by that.
Without diving, headfirst into last season, because I wasn't here. So, but just looking at the numbers, they gave up close to 119 points a game, which put them 30th in points allowed. Not good. Yeah. But it's easy to say, well, we'll just be better. How? How can we be better? If you just break it down, the difference of 7.5 points puts you in the top 10 in points allowed. So something as simple as one stop a quarter reduces that number. Now all of a sudden you're top 10 defense. So it feels on the surface insurmountable when you look at some of the just raw metrics. But when you really break it down, it's the rankings are what they are. But sometimes the difference is nothing but 0.2 of a point, or 1%. And all of a sudden you're in the top 15. So it's not that you're not that far away. You get one stop a quarter. You get one more contest. You get one more box out. There's your difference. So it's look at the aggregate, not necessarily just at that one instance.
Yeah. Of course, you got the free throw defense.
Absolutely. A lot of the foul rate. Get that down. And some of that's just discipline. Yeah. Some of it's technique. Some of it's just understanding who you're guarding. And that person's strengths. Can we find detailed and nuanced ways to improve? It's nothing crazy, but it's just fine-tuning details.
On the other side, offensively, what's your, I couldn't be a coach because I don't change. I don't make the adjustments that people have to make. And I was way behind. I like the three-point shot now, but it took me a while. I don't know if I'm that crazy about the amount of threes that are taken, but I understand the effectiveness of it. So I'm just kind of interested.
It's just the modern game. I mean, I think, once again, getting the three-point attempts up is one thing, but getting the right threes. So it's more aligned to the efficiency in how we play on offense. Reducing some of the mid-range shots. And it's not necessarily, hey, we're going to take that out, or we want guys to live in a box. We're going to play to your strength.
Right.
In Denver, I coached 2 guys who excelled in that mid-range area. So, of course, play to your strength, but understand the value of that shot compared to other shots we can generate. So just so our guys, and I think it's just more of a holistic approach of teaching them the why. So they understand what's important, what's the priority. Play with the freedom, play with the space, but understand, what exactly we're looking for, and then take advantage of what the defense gives you.
Well, Wes, it's been a pleasure talking with you. It feels like old times. You're part of the family, and man, I'm so happy, not just like I said, because I played with your dad, but also because you're part of the family. And since you were 2 or 3, I remember watching you and see you grow and develop. I'm happy for you, proud for you. And the whole family sends their best. We'll be pulling for you out there.
Thank you so much.
And I guess we should thank the Bud Light people for putting this on so we can get it on and just chat.
Absolutely.
It's been enjoyable.
We should do it again sometime soon.
Let's do it.
Good to see you.
All right.